Hello everyone, good morning. Dan the Glass Man here. It's a little bit before 8 o'clock in the morning here. I believe the sun is pretty much coming up. It's on the other side of the Sandia Mountains, so we got a lot of sunlight coming through, but the sun still hasn't risen up above the mountains yet. So we're still in our shadow here, but that'll change very soon. And so I just wanted to go live this morning, and I figure, I went live for Christmas Eve, went live for Christmas Eve, I believe, and then on Christmas Day, yesterday we went live and invited you all in to enjoy our Christmas opening ceremony. I don't know what you call that. What do you call that? Christmas gift exchange. And so, yeah, I just wanted to invite y'all in and share with you what we were able to do for our children this year, and the different gifts that we were able to receive for them. And just wanted to also give our thanks, our love, and our gratitude to all of our supporters out there, all of you who have helped us through, as artists, as individuals who are self-employed, and we're doing the best we can to make ends meet. We can't do it alone. I can't make glass and then ta-da, bills are paid, right? I have to sell the glass. I have to make all these things, and then have individuals like yourselves to come in and support us. So thank you so much for allowing us to give our children a wonderful Christmas this year. And it's really fortunate that we're able to do so. And learning how my our 11-year-old daughter, you know, when we have Christmas here, what I've been coming to realize in the last few years is that we actually have the bigger Christmas celebration here. And then on her over with her mother, um, I guess last year, um, funds are tight, and I understand that. We can't always just be indulging in things if we can't afford it. We don't want to um, go out of our ways to do all this. You know, I've shared my own personal story with you guys and how basically ruined um, Christmas basically ruined Christmas for me. It was actually the mismanagement of money and and the ignorance, not having the knowledge. My mother basically being ignorant on how to budget, how to um, keep track of funds and where it should go and how to allocate it and how to reinvest it and not to turn everything into liabilities and turn things into assets and things like that. And so, when I was younger, I guess around 8 or 9 years old, was our one of our very last Christmases, and then after that year, everything that we got went into storage, and everything ended up we ended up becoming homeless. We ended up becoming homeless, and eventually, my mom spent, I don't know, $100, $200 a month trying to keep a storage unit in California going for um, I'm wondering actually, because when our mother passed, she had a storage unit still, and I'm wondering if that storage unit was the one that she was still keeping all of our things from when we were children. But I believe we actually eventually lost that storage unit too, and everything that was in it after she had already put all kinds of money into it. And I've been down that road before, but I've also learned that, all material possessions can all be replaced, and also if it's sitting in storage and you're not utilizing something for, a few months up to a year, 2 years, and you're just paying for having the possessions to be able to claim, ooh, I have this, I own this. It's like, well, so what if you own it? If you don't even put it into devotional service, if you never use it, if you don't utilize it every day, right? And so, growing up as a kid, I had a really a tough lesson with the whole Christmas spirit, the whole gifting, the whole reason to like why do we even like waste money and spend money on it and all this and that. And it wasn't until I became a parent, a parent to what the Christmas spirit was, and also a parent to children, and it became apparent to me when I became a parent to my children that Christmas is all about bringing that joy and that happiness, right? And to be able to fulfill those dark times in our life, you know? And because I gave up on the spirit of Christmas when I was younger, and I just thought, oh, well, life just sucks, and, this is the old end all be all of it all, and I guess we're going to have to be homeless and be without things and all this stuff. And eventually, I ended up going and living with my father, and we were able to receive gifts again and things like that. But during the whole time, every year for years and years and years, like close to 20 years later, still, my mother remained homeless. Our mother. And so, it was really harsh um, to know that. But even still, the one thing about my mom was even though she was always homeless for what, half my life, for about half my life, my mother was homeless. And the thing is, though, is even though my mother didn't have everything, she didn't have all the glitz and glamour, no silver spoons ever. It was always plastic, right? And so, you know, she always kept the Christmas spirit alive. That's one thing that I love about my mom, is that even though she went through some of the most darkest times, and through, like, she endured uh, some of the worst of life, and yet she was able to always smile and always laugh, and she was always able to keep that Christmas spirit alive. And here, let me show you this real quick. This is a beautiful heart ornament that was gifted by my sister, and it has our mother on it. This here, actually, is our mom's old Christmas village, and I don't know if it works anymore or not. It worked last year. I plugged it in this year and it didn't light up, so I don't know if I need a new plug or if the fiber optics went out, the unit or whatever, but we'll see if we can get that running again. But let me share with you the ornament up here that my sister made for us, and then I'll share a story. All right, so this here is a beautiful heart-shaped ornament, and as you can see, it's got her mom on it, and it's also in the beautiful color of purple, which our mom loved. And I don't know if we'll be able to zoom in on that. Maybe not do this way. Here, let me flip you around real quick, and we'll zoom in there. There you go. You still live on in our hearts, up, and minds of the loving family you left behind. And so, I'm sorry, I don't know what's going on with the camera. I think it's the lighting, It's trying to get, like, here. What if I go all the way in? Like, you give it the only option to zoom in. Well, that's our mother there. And as you can see, she's got the Christmas hat on. She's actually a bell ringer, or was a bell ringer for the Red Cross. And no, sorry, for the Salvation Army. And the Salvation Army, I know that they helped a lot of individuals who were homeless at the time. I know we used to go to the Salvation Army headquarters there, and we would we'd get these burritos, these like deep fried chimichanga burritos. We'd have to wait in line and wait to get fed, and we'd each get a burrito. And I remember, at times that would be our only meal of the day. We'd be able to get a burrito. Maybe we'd have some kind of like little miniature boxes of cold cereal or something like that for breakfast. You know, maybe eating at the 25-cent hamburger stand when we were younger, when hamburgers were 25 cents. And at times they would then bring them down on sale to 10 cents. So that's pretty crazy. But um, I recently shared a post of my mom and a picture of my mom of that same exact image there of her being a bell ringer for Salvation Army. And I don't know which location that was. It could have been in San Bernardino, or it could have been in like somewhere out in that general area. Um, she became homeless in Pomona, California, and stayed in that area, San Bernardino, the foothills. I don't know, like all in that kind of area. Maybe Riverside. I don't know if my mom ever lived in Riverside, but definitely San Bernardino and Rancho Cucamonga, Upland area, those kind of places in California. That's where my mom passed away in Rancho Cucamonga. The whole place where everyone says, Bugs Bunny, yeah, I should have made a right turn at Rancho Cucamonga. I should have made a left at Albuquerque, right? And so, um, I made a post recently on a Facebook group called You're From. Those groups. It's like you're from, and then it's like your birth city, birth state, whatever. And so there's one called You're From Pomona, California, and I posted up just a nice memorial for my mom, letting people know you may remember our mother out there during the holidays, during the Christmas season, out there ringing a bell for the Salvation Army and raising funds and bringing joy and cheer to everyone else, even though she was homeless at the time, and how she had helped out with a prominent individual in the community, a man named Mr. White, who I knew him as Mr. White. I actually don't even know his first name. I just have always known him as Mr. White, and I knew his whole family. They lived there on the corner street somewhere, on a corner house. And my mom used to always uh, volunteer to do work and things for him. um, and so yeah, on that post, a lot of people had they commented, "Thank you for sharing. She seems like a beautiful, loving woman, and caring woman, and thank you for sharing." Some people actually said, "I recognize her," and I thought that was really cool. And some people said, because I actually put that we lived by my elementary school on a street called Vandergrift, and someone actually posted, "Hey, I lived on Vandergrift, right on the corner, this and that," and then turns out that's like my old neighbor who I actually never knew while growing up, but I remember them. They always used to have their garage door open. They were on the corner. We were almost on the corner. We were one house away from the corner, so we could see the corner house right there across, like catty corner from us. And they always had the garage door open, and the teenage boys that were always in there, they would always be working on different things like the lawnmower go karts and lawnmower the little mopeds, the little tiny cruisers that now somehow they're all coming back these days. So we're talking about my mom here, guys. Those of you who are just tuning in and watching, and we're just sharing some memories and talking about how she was a bell ringer for Salvation Army. I posted it up on Facebook on You're From Pomona, California, and bam, lo and behold, some people actually recognized her. Some people remember being in that neighborhood, and a lot of people just thanked me for sharing that story, and you know, it's nice to be able to speak about my mom in beautiful ways. You know, I know she didn't have the best life. You know, I know that you know, like her own family pretty much like I wouldn't say disowned her, but pretty much like said you're on your own. You know, I guess that's what all families do to us, right? You're on your own there, buddy. And so you know, one thing that I feel that's kind of sad to me is that her own brother, my uncle, never acknowledged her passing. You know, he's acknowledged all these other individuals in his life on his Facebook feed and things like that, but he never acknowledged his own sister, my mom. He's like, huh, quite interesting there. Hmm. Were you not proud to be related? Was it something like that? Like, I don't know. But it's just interesting. And you know, even on her birthdays, on her anniversaries, he never mentions her. And it's like, wow, man, like this is your sister in heaven, and you never even like honor her in any way. Like, wow, it's a little harsh. But she was out there on the streets the whole time while she had a brother that could have taken her in. You know, her parents were pretty much already gone. Our grandparents were pretty much, you know, they couldn't have taken care of her. You know, at that point, you know, when our grandfather passed, and that was pretty much it for anyone who might be willing to help her. Besides my sister, you know, my sister, the one who sent us the ornament. You know, she's the one who's like taking on the role of being the loving nurturer of the family and making sure that everyone has what they need or making sure that we're all doing good. You know, she's taking on that role, and she always has. I always considered my oldest sister as like a motherly figure, always making sure I was getting those good grades. You know, in high school, I believe my sister was maybe working a side job and used her own paychecks to encourage her little brothers and maybe sister. I don't know. Maybe our sister, her younger sister, my older sister. Maybe at that time she was already a runaway and had taken off at like the age of like 11 or 13. I don't remember specifically. And you know, and our mom having to endure all that while our mom's homeless. She's worrying about her child also being out there on the streets. You know, and so gosh, yeah, it's just weird, you know, to have these memories and things. But you know, for me, like I said, I had Christmas tainted for me years and years and years and years ago. And it wasn't until I had my own family that I realized, you know, if I don't bring back the joy of Christmas in our home, then they're going to be worse off than I was. Because at least my mom, even in the worst of times, she still knew how to smile during Christmas. She still knew how to do things for others, raise funds for others, to be a bell ringer, to do other things, you know. And so Christmas was like my one of my mom's favorite holidays. I know she also loved Halloween as well, and so Christmas is a way to honor my mom. You know, a lot of people nowadays they're questioning truth. They're and it's beautiful that people are finally questioning the truth of it all and where does it come from and why do we blindly follow this and blindly follow that? Why do we blindly pay taxes when there's no law that says that we're supposed to? There's no law. Like it's just a regulation and order and everyone does it, right? And somehow courts find rulings for it or whatever because they say that there's some sort of law when there really isn't. And you know, so if we don't bring back that spirit of the holidays, I would have been giving my children an even worse upbringing than I had. And that's not what we're supposed to be doing as parents. As parents, it is apparent that we are to make the best for our children, so they don't have to go through all the BS that we had to endure. Try to teach them through our mistakes, but of course, everyone wants to learn through their own mistakes. You tell them, hey, don't do that. You're going to get hurt. And what do? Hey, don't touch that candle. It's going to burn. And what happens? Eventually, your child is going to want to know how hot that flame really is. Oh, they say it burned. It's just there. And until you touch that fire, right? So until we go through our own experiences, I guess, is when we can actually understand the lesson fully. Because if you just watch someone else go through it, you don't fully endure that anguish, that pain, the suffering. So it's interesting that we all have to go through suffering in order to come out of the wash. It's kind of what the whole Christmas holiday is based on, right? Is the birth and the life or suffering, the 4 stages of suffering of Jesus. you know Even Jesus had to go through the 4 stages of suffering, which is birth, disease, old age, and death. Except death for him is different than for us. Death for Jesus became eternal life. And why and how? Why and how? Well, Jesus was afforded, he was allotted, he was allowed, he was given the responsibility of certain knowledge, of information that was brought forth to him through the Vedanta scriptures, through Vedic teachings. He learned the ultimate teachings of God, the spoken word, the Vedic scriptures. He learned the spoken word of God. He learned that we are all connected, that we are all parts and parcels of God, that we are all sons and daughters of God. And he learned this, and he accepted it. And he also boasted it, right? I know I'm a son of God. I don't know about you, but I claim it all the time. And then again, I get ridiculed and everything, whatever. It is what it is. But I know I'm a son of God. And I know that I have an eternal life already. I know that my soul's eternal. My eternal spirit soul, it's going to reside on forever. But I also have learned Vedanta teachings, Vedic knowledge, that we have a way out of the cycle of birth and death. Just as Jesus had a cycle out of birth and death. And that's one thing that I don't understand, is that people still believe that that form of that eternal spirit soul, that form of Jesus, is going to return back. It's going to look exactly identical. They're looking for that image of God, not remembering the many, many manifestations and appearances of God long before Jesus and long after Jesus. And the ones after, well, those have just been ridiculed, right? Anyone who claims to be a son of God after Jesus, it's blasphemy, right? You're not allowed to do that, even though Jesus taught us that we're supposed to follow in his footsteps. We're supposed to become just like Jesus as well. And Jesus also spoke to God and prayed that one day we would all have that divine relationship with God, and basically knowing that we are also sons and daughters of God, that we're basically we are the creations of Creator. It's as simple as that. Like, we are, we come straight from Creator, and that's a beautiful thing. And so, simply, Jesus was teaching Vedic scriptures, Vedanta teachings, and knowing that there was an ultimate way, an ultimate source directly back to God, and that was in serving God, and basically also being good to all others, because he learned about the true meaning of namaste. Namaste means I seen the God self in you that is within me. The God self. I see that God particle in you. I see, well, we are the particles. I see that God source that's within you as is within me. That's namaste, right? I accept you as you accept me. And so, in learning namaste, he learned that that God self, that God soul, is within us all. And so, if we are serving God, we must serve all, because God is within all. And that's all Jesus was teaching. He also learned of Buddhist philosophies, and he learned of the Lotus Sutra. And in that, he learned a lot about compassion and love and the healing of the world through that, and causing no harm to others, and those things in that nature. So he was an ultimate teacher in this lifetime, and still teaching to this day. But then again, those teachings are very questionable, because for one, the recorded scriptures, or the writings, the transcriptions that were put down onto paper of the recordings of memories, was 400 years after the fact. So when the Bible was first written, was 400 years after. So imagine, like, okay, we're here right now. Now imagine 400 years from now, someone is going to try to write about what happened in the last 3 years, right? And the whole pandemic and everything. Don't you think they're going to get some things wrong? And don't you think they're going to sensationalize some things? But if it was kept in Sanskrit, or if it was kept in a way of God's vibrational frequency, energy, if it was the absolute truth, then it could never be misunderstood. And that way, when it was written, it was the actual information. Now, from what I understand, the original version of the Bible was in the Hebrew text and not in Sanskrit. So things got lost in translation, or misconstrued, or it's like in some languages, like we have words for some things in English that they don't have words for in the native language, of the native Northern Americans, or of many individuals, like learning that some of my friends in their original teachings, green, the way you would say green is the same as blue. There wasn't another way of being able to say it and distinguish it, even in just colors. But now, we have a plethora of there's green, lime green, dark green, forest green, jade green. There's all these different greens, right? Kelly green, enchanted forest green. Oh, we got Christmas tree green. You got the cannabis green. But which strain green? You got that purple green. You got that red green. You got that orange green. You got that yellow, lime green, like what, you know. And for some, it you only know the word blue. You cannot even like identify in all those different things. But in the English uh, language, they can use the term, the word, the spoken word green to then represent this here or this or that, you know. But then you look up here and it's like, oh, is that green? No, those are actually blue. Look how close. So see, that's how they would just consider green as blue. And it's an interesting thing. And so you have to remember that 400 years of something not being recorded, and then they finally record things. There's going to be some things lost. We also have historically learned that they have purposely removed things from the original scriptures. And so now there are a lot of individuals who question the whole thing. And because of some things being missing, now everything is considered blasphemy. Everything is considered like it's just a fairy tale, that it never happened. Jesus never existed. And there's never been a returning, another avatar, new avatar, new avatar, a new appearance of God over and over again. Even though in the Vedas and Vedanta teachings and in the historic recorded recordings of history, there's been many multitude of appearances over and over and over and over and over again. You see, because that energy basically can come through any single one of us at any time in our lives. You know, it took some time for the baby Jesus to become a youth and start doing things within before the age of 13, then leaving, right, and taking off and coming back some 18 years later. And so there's 18 years of missing history. It's like more than half his life, right? When was he crucified? At the age of 32, if I remember correctly. So if there's 18 years missing and 32, it's like that's more than half his life that we are not accounting for. Where did he go? What happened? This can tell us all of it. If you'd like to learn and like to know more, this right here and this right here is my gift to you. As many people understand this here, and this is a little one, right? Everyone understands this here. And some people have started to try to learn and understand this, right? But they do this in a form of stretching and making your body feel good. And they haven't learned the perfection of it yet. And that it's not about the body, but more for the soul. Bhakti yoga. So people don't know about it. And definitely people don't know, and not many know about this. They don't know about this. They may know who he is. They may recognize him. This is my brother here. You can see. Come on, look. And so this right here is the King of Travelers. If you read this book here, you will then learn why he is known as the King of Travelers and what he did on all of his years that was never mentioned. Over half his life completely gone, or not, because it's all in here, guys. And I've actually never written. I've never written this book. I've never read this book. Here, let me read the back to you. So it says, what really happened to Jesus Christ during the mysterious missing 18 years in his life from the age of 12 to 30 that are not accounted for in the New Testament? Catholics call that period of Jesus' life the lost years or the hidden years. Why are they hidden? Why were they lost on purpose? Only the Gospel of Luke refers to those years in just one sentence. Right? Isn't that what they say that the Gospel of Luke says that at the age of 13 and until the time he returned, that he became a more learned man. He became a more spiritually connected man, a more wise man. That he became the Son of God in those years of his missing years, right? Well, what happened? What happened to make him become the Christ consciousness, Krishna, Christ, Krishna, the consciousness within him? So, there's the one sentence, right? That then he became a more learned man and a more holy man, and he became the Son of God, right? But thanks to Edward T. Martin's extraordinary research and travels, some of the answers may be found here. So I've never read this book. I've learned some of what's in here. I've learned a recollection of the retold story of this and how Jesus ended up going to the temple of Lord Jagannath. Lord Jagannath is Krishna, basically. And so he went to the temple of Jagannath there, and he studied and resided there for many, many years. When I was in the ashram, I resided there for 2 to 3 years. He was gone for 18 years. He was within it. Within 18 years. Imagine, So I was living there for 3 years, and I was fully devoted and within it. And now, after only what? Gosh, I'm trying to even remember how long it's been that I have learned of Krishna. I believe it was around 2013, 2014. So maybe 10 years now that I have known of Krishna, but I didn't stay in a temple for 18 years. So, this is the book that inspired the 2008 Paul Davids film distributed by NBC Universal International Television, Jesus in India. So there's a film called Jesus in India, as seen on the Sundance Channel and featuring author Edward T. Martin's quest in India to attempt to unravel ancient mysteries about the historical Jesus. This is a revised and updated version of the first edition. Also, look for the Edward T. Martin's new companion book, Jesus in India, King of Wisdom, the making of the film and new findings on Jesus' lost years. New concepts of the historic person of Jesus of Nazareth are emerging from studies of ancient texts discovered in the Holy Land and Egypt and even India. Pope Benedict XVI acknowledges the findings of new information in his book, Jesus of Nazareth. However, what the Pope does not discuss, which you will learn much about in this book, is that the concept that Jesus was in India during the lost years is not new to anyone in India, but they, Hindu, Buddhist, Muslim, or Christian. So, it's saying that they all knew about it for long, long ago, up until recently. The Apostle Thomas brought Christianity to India after the crucifixion and preached there for about 20 years. Jesus sent him. And a widespread view in India is that in choosing India, Jesus was sending Thomas to a country Jesus already knew very well from Jesus' travels there during the lost years. But how does one separate myth from evidence and fact? John Maverick researcher and explorer Edward T. Martin, as he join maverick researcher and explorer Edward T. Martin as he journeys to remote exotic locations in India, Nepal, Afghanistan, and elsewhere in Central Asia, including in Kashmir, unraveling the mysteries of Jesus' lost years. Follow the author, an accomplished mountain climber, on a thrilling journey of spiritual discovery as he travels the world from Alaska to the Himalayas in search of lost knowledge. So there you go, guys. That's the author right there. And this is the King of Travelers. So I really highly recommend this book so you can actually learn where the teachings, where the root of Jesus' teachings, where it actually does come from. Holy wow. So I found this book somewhere, right? I didn't realize this. I don't know if this belongs to my friend. I don't know if this belongs to my friend Gabby, but it says to Gabriella, with all best wishes, Edward T. Martin. Not only that, there is a printout. Holy, on page 77. The sevens represent Jesus. I didn't realize this was in the book. Like I said, I've never read this book. There is a lot of information here. This is their travels, actually, where there's the direction of travel, where they started from. Number 1, New Delhi. Then they went to Bombay, then Goa, then Bangalore, then Mumbai, then Madras, and then to Puri, and then I can't read that writing there. Orissa, and it keeps on going. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 18, and then back to 1. There's up there in Kashmir, the tomb of Jesus right here, next to Kashmir. Wow, this is really interesting here. This is their route of travel. But not only that, okay, and I don't know why this is on page 77, but the number 7, as I was explaining the other day, and how I honor Jesus through my drinking. I'm just going to cover up this information here. But we even have his business card, guys. It's got his cell phone number. It's got emails, contacts. We're going to be able to get in touch with the man himself and find out what he really knew. Very interesting. Okay, and then I also remember this. So, the Aquarian Gospel of Jesus Christ state that Jesus believed in and taught the concept of reincarnation, but not that of transmigration. That is, that human souls incarnate again and again into human bodies, but not into the bodies of animals. Also, Jesus often spoke against the caste system, proclaiming that human equality practice instead. So that's where he changed up the teachings from Vedanta teachings, which are caste system, into mixing up the Buddhist philosophies and going more into the equality. Several times, angry mobs tried to hurt Jesus, but he was always able to escape. Folklore says that sometimes during the teenage years of Jesus, he was notified that his surrogate father, Joseph, had died. This notification was by a letter from his mother, Mary. Finally, the popularity of Jesus' teachings against the caste system and the Hindu priest reached a critical point. The priest hired a murderer to kill Jesus, but he was warned and escaped from Benares to the north to Nepal. There at the city of Kapilavastu, he was welcomed by Buddhist priests to live and study with them. And the Aquarium Gospel of Jesus further states that Jesus visited Lhasa in Tibet. Levi Dowling states that Jesus studied a monastery, perhaps at the approximate site of what eventually became the Marlborough Monastery. He is said to have studied with the great sage and teacher Mengste, who called Mencius by the Greeks. Later, Jesus traveled across Tibet to the Ladakh city of Leh in what is now northern western India. There, Jesus spent a number of weeks visiting the area where the Hemis Monastery is now located and where an ancient Buddhist monastery may have preceded it. Does that explain the portrait of the ancient Israelite young holy man seen by Aziz Kashmiri? After leaving the region of Hemis, Ladakh, Jesus visited Srinagar and later Lahore in what is now Pakistan. From there, he joined a caravan traveling westward toward Israel and what would be, when Christian history, at least the part commencing with Jesus' baptism at the River Jordan by John the Baptist, begins. So the Aquarian Gospel of Jesus Christ is a very important book to read, to learn about all that. And this is all historical findings, this is all stuff that's been written, been put down in order to preserve the history of this. What I find interesting is that the Hindu priest maybe hired someone to take out Jesus because he started teaching a different way, and he was going against the ways of what he was teaching. And in the book it says that you are not to go against those ways. And so that's really interesting. But then he took on the Buddhist philosophies, and so that's why he's known more of more of a Buddhist heart. But he learned he learned so much through Krishna and through being up there at the Temple of Jagannath. So that's in chapter 7, Traditions about the Teenage Years of Jesus. Just so you know. But I definitely need to read this book now. I started to watch some videos on the things of it. And just that video alone, I know it doesn't have it all. It doesn't have all the information that I'd like to know. But I will definitely be studying more into that, and learning more about that. So even though I never really grew up in a church setting, it took a while until I actually remember going to church as a child. I know my oldest sister, the one who I basically, look at as like a motherly figure in my whole life. I was taken to her church when she was going to a Southern Gospel Baptist church. And man, those guys know how to bring it up. They know how to make that, like, lively up yourself. Like the whole what Bob Marley was singing about, to lively up yourself, to raise the frequency, the energy, and the vibration, and sing to God, for God, to raise that vibration. Like, man, those Gospel Baptist church, they feel it. They get into it. And so I remember being at those churches, and I loved going to those churches, you know. And being in California, you know, we grew up where, you know, it's either you're either Mexican or you're black, mostly. You know, I mean, there's some parts like you go to what Hollywood, Beverly Hills, the Redondo Hills, you know, up in the hills. Anyone who's up in the hills, right? The hills have eyes. Just kidding. The hills have eyes. But yeah, so there are a lot of black folk, a lot of Mexicans, you know, a lot of us over there, a lot of darkies, dark skinned ones. And so, you know, I grew up with a lot of black individuals. My best friends in elementary school were black, you know, Jermaine and Dante. And, you know, growing up, like that was never an issue with me. It wasn't until I came out here in New Mexico that I realized that there's hardly any out here. You know, like if you go down like to the Kirtland neighborhood over there off of like University and Gibson, or maybe up like Fort Hills kind of area. But other than that, man, like comparison from California to here, it was like, wow, there's a lot of Mexicans and New Mexicans here, and Spaniards and Indians, natives. And it's weird calling them Indians because they're not from India. And that's another thing. Why did they do that? Why did they send Columbus? Why did the Spaniards send Columbus over here and then basically call all these people over here Indian? It's like they wanted to try to rewrite history, confuse people in the teachings of what the Vedanta teachings are, the true spoken words of God coming in from Vedanta teachings through India, through the Hindus who became Hindu eventually, and they somehow figured out, the Spaniards, and that's part of my ancestors, right? So we somehow figured out how to trick the world to where now everyone thinks that the Indians with the feathers are the ones who have all the ancient teachings and all the ancient knowledge that go all the way back to God, right? And they're very proud of this knowledge and this wisdom that they pass down from generation upon generation. But their elders at this point right now aren't sharing it all. And all the youth are all down here with their phones, you know, and they're not really paying attention to the ancient ways. They're not going out and doing traditional dances, learning the traditional songs and the drumming. They're not learning about the traditional ways and customs, you know, that everyone's become colonized. And then you got people who are like talking about, oh, you colonizer this, colonizer that. And it's like, well, yeah, at one point the whole world got tricked into believing that the Americas is full of Indians. It's like, no, never. Like, not until they started coming over from India. Like, we do have some real Indians here, right? And they work over at Annapurna, right? They got the really nice dal and the rice and the khichdi and all the amazing foods that everyone loves, all the Ayurvedic foods, you know, Ayurvedic, Vedic, Ayurvedic, food science, Vedas, science. The Vedas is a science of life. So when you can get back to the actual true teachings of God and not be misdirected and misconstrued by the Spaniards, by my ancestors, if you want to stop being tricked, quit calling those natives from Native America Indians, because they're not. Only Indians are from India. They're Hindu, right? And many say that we are all Hindu, from the Hindu genus species. Indigenous, 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 indigenous. You get it? We're all indigenous to the planet Earth. It's not just one, oh, you guys from Northern America, what you call Turtle Island, you guys are the only indigenous or indigenous species here on this planet, right? Let's not, let's forget about the Central Americans who are also Native Americans. Let's forget about the Southern Americans who are also Native Americans. And let's forget about the Aboriginals, the truly, truly dark skinned ones that came from way far down south in South America. Those were the first ancient Native Americans here. But there's a pride and ego, right? Everyone's all about pride these days, right? And fly your flags. Woo, 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 woo. Here's my flag. But for real, you know, I'll find these flags, right? Talking about the rainbow, people don't understand the color spectrum, the frequency, the energy, the vibration, the sound vibration that makes the colors. You know, the different colors. You know, we've been miseducated on that as well. We've been taught that the primary colors are what? You guys know what the primary colors are, but what are the true primary colors that make up all the color spectrum of the rainbow? Because it's not red, and it's not blue, and it's not yellow. Does anyone know? Do you know? Because I do. It's like the same thing. It's like, you know, people say, and then and then God spoke and he said, let there be light, right? Well, there was a vibration that came out, right? God's vibration. God is all. So, right, the everything created a sound vibration, which was in 3 parts. 3 parts. Some people write it as OHM. NASA has recordings of space or the universe, and it sounds like that. You know, it's got that ohm, that is the frequency, the energy, the vibration of God, of the universe. That is the sound vibration. And when you put a sound vibration through water, right? So we got the waters above, so below, right? We have the firmament, right? And you have that sound vibration that goes through water. Scientists have proved this now. They can get a container of water, right? Direct energy, frequency, vibration into that at a specific hertz, at a specific energy level, with a very specific vibrational megahertz frequency, right? Specific energy, hone it in to the water, and eventually a spark of light appears out of nowhere. God speaking is just a sound vibration. When they say let there be light, all it was it was like that was all it was. There was vibration, then there was light. God, vibration, light, stars, firmament, still vibrating to this day. They're still up there to this day. Some of them vibrate out, disappear. But when you understand the color spectrums, that they're all just a color spectrum frequency. Waves. They're either sound waves or light waves, right? They're just waves, right? They can be little waves, real shallow, or they could be deep waves, right? Like super deep waves, right? Or shallow waves. You know, you can have your heartbeat, boom, 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 shallow and deep, right? So you can have these vibrations, these frequencies, these energies all flowing through. What I've recently learned, just like in the last year of my life, is that the color spectrum, like the sound of God, it's not OHM, it's AUM. The ah, the oo, the mm. These are sounds that even if your tongue was cut out of your mouth, you would still be allowed to make the sound vibration even without your tongue. These are the sounds of God. When you create that sound vibration, you can create healing, you can create a lot of different things to happen. You can create that light energy force when you vibrate properly. Now, with the color spectrum, we've been taught red, blue, and yellow, right? It makes all the colors in the world, right? But that's not true. And those of you who are, maybe you work in art, maybe you work as a printer, maybe you work with color spectrums as your profession, that you will understand when I say this. To get a true photographic color print, you only need 3 colors, right? To get a photographic print of any image, you only need 3 colors, right? And what are those 3 primary colors? Right? The teal, the cyan, the magenta. Right? The magenta, teal, cyan. Red, blue, green. Or yellow. Green. Sorry. Red, blue, yellow. Green's one of my favorite colors. Blue and green. So when you can mix the magenta, the cyan, the yellow, those are 3 color frequencies. They're color spectrums. And when you can mix those color spectrums, you can create it all. So when you can create the 3 sounds, the A, the U, the M, you can then create it all. When you put those together, the A, the U, the M, you get the Om. And so that's why the Om is considered the spoken word of God. And we can heal ourselves through that, you know. A lot of people don't sit around all day and just go, Om, you know. I mean, how many people sit here during the day and it's all like in a meditation, in a prayer, just constantly all. There's a reason why the Aboriginals, who are the original Southern Americans here, the original Native Americans, the Aboriginals, there's a reason why they play a didgeridoo. There's a reason why they amplify their own vibration through one of God's creations, a eucalyptus root, which then allows that sound to bend at the different at the nooks and the bends of the root, you know, so then the sound can bounce off of the walls within there and vibrate out and also amplify out. And if you don't know what the didgeridoo is, it's basically like the sound of Om, the A, the U, the M, just maybe with a little bit more more frequency or more energy or more of a different sound level spectrum. Maybe it's a different hertz, megahertz, but still it has that Om. It's interesting, this knowledge that has been hidden from us and kept from us. And why was it, why is it? Is it because they don't want us to have this knowledge, this information, so then we can not become more Jesus-like, right? And you can't even see that anymore because he's hidden in the light. See? And sometimes even the light is too bright to see. And that's the thing, is Jesus' light became so bright that people couldn't understand what he was saying. He couldn't be seen in their sight. Like it was like they're looking for the trees, but the forest is right there in front of them. You know, you can't see the forest for the trees, right? So his light became so bright they couldn't understand him, and so all they had to do was just get rid of him. And it's kind of interesting if the priest, the Hindu priest, maybe were the ones to want to get him out. But then, wasn't it the Romans? Wasn't it Caesar? Was it King Herod? Who was the one who actually gave the orders now? Because this is new information for me that I'm learning. I'm like, wow, okay. And I'm not taking offense by it in any way, because I understand the caste system, and I understand Krishna consciousness, and I understand the teachings of Krishna and how we're supposed to follow and serve. So I understand why that order maybe went out for Jesus. And that's quite interesting to learn that. All in one reading, right? Just real quick and easy, real bam, just like that. On page 77, and there it was written. So I just kind of wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about Christmas and see how your Christmas went yesterday. I know a lot of people don't, they really don't want to even give into it. They don't want to believe that there was an individual who was known as Jesus, was named Emmanuel, was known as, I believe he was known as Isa as well, as a saint, Saint Isa, and that there's historical writings of Saint Isa before he became known as Jesus, before he went back and returned, and then that's when the whole gospel of was the Gospel of John started. And so it's quite interesting to learn these things. And so I think it's important for us to remember to keep an open mind, because the things that we've been taught, you know, how much have we been taught in this history of the world, and then the facts and the information just crumbles out, and it's like, oh, that actually wasn't absolute truth, right? How many times is information or things or whatever recalled back? I'm like, oh, wait a minute. So I find that in order for us to really learn to accept one another, that's the thing, is we're going to have to learn to accept one another's teachings in this light, in this way, because we were all brought up through many different ways, you know. We all have our own personal experiences, and then we have our own past life ancestral karma, our own personal past life karmas, all of our, you know, historic from generational karma, like everything from our ancestors. We have all the karma that we're now enduring on a daily basis, and all the lessons and things that we're learning and reteaching ourselves daily. And so I believe that by keeping an open mind, it really helps us to understand each other and where we are all coming from. And we don't have to fight over which way is better, and my way is not the right way, and your way is not the right way, or whatever. But let's just learn from historical findings and teachings what is the truth. And let's keep on uncovering the truth. You know, for me, whether you want to call him Jesus, Buddha, Allah, Krishna, Gandhi, I was about to say a word that was like, whoa, how would you put his name into that? It's like, a lot of people worship this guy right now. And the other blundering idiot, too. But I won't mention their names. You guys probably know who I'm talking about, those two guys. And so, you know, there are a lot of different ways that people worship, that people practice, that people live in order to simply connect themselves right back to God, not remembering that we are already connected right here with our God self within. I understand that Christmas, this whole thing has become bastardized. And Hallmark, Coca-Cola, they've made a ton of profits off of this every year. And every company that now is all involved, you know, we got ornament companies, you got companies who manufacture ornaments, you got companies who manufacture streamers, you got companies who manufacture stickers, you got individuals who make handmade products and things like that. You got people who make stuffed animals that are from cartoon characters, and then they convert them into Christmas characters, right? They put them into Christmas garb and this and that. And you got people who make little houses and little Christmas villages and little ho ho hos. And you even have people who sell bah humbugs and all kinds of stuff. Like, it's a money maker right now, right? It's definitely become bastardized. But for me, this is the tradition that I grew up in. Ever since I was a little child, always looking forward as a child, always looking forward to that day that the big jolly old Saint Nick comes to our home. Whether you have a fireplace or not, it doesn't matter. Whether you believe in him or not, that there's that one day of the year that you may be able to get one thing that you've been requesting all year from your parents, right? And they just broke, they don't have enough money, you haven't been good enough, you don't deserve it, they don't want to get it for you just because, they don't think that you need something like that. Whatever it is, you may have that one opportunity to get that one thing that you really love and you've been wanting and desiring all year. And yeah, it may be something that then feeds our materialistic nature instead of our spiritualistic nature. And yeah, it may not be the best of things, but when we are living in a time where sadness is rampant, disease is everywhere, or diseasement, people are suffering and not understanding that we all go through the four stages of suffering: birth, disease, old age, death. We all go through it. That our bodies all are going to perish. They're all going to get weak. They're all going to eventually go back, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. If we don't prepare our spiritual souls for the next journey to come, the transition is going to be a harsh one for everyone. But if you prepare yourself for the next generation, the next transition, and also prepare the next generation, is what I also meant to say at the same time. So you prepare your children, you prepare them so they can prepare their children, they can prepare their children, and we can continue to prepare ourselves in the transition of the eternal spirit soul and leaving the earth, leaving this body, leaving this vessel, which is going to become another form of suffering. Or maybe not. Maybe it's going to feel like you're shedding skin and renewing. The eternal soul will be happy to get away from all of this. Whereas those who are still stuck in the Maya, in the illusion, the Maya is the illusionary energy that we get sucked into. I was just reading about, I don't know if I can, I don't know if I can remember the name now. Not Ananda. All right, well, there's an individual who asked Krishna to please show him the power of Maya's energy. And Krishna says, "Are you sure? Are you sure you really want to know the power of the illusion of Maya? Do you really want to know?" And he says, "Yes." And Krishna's like, I beg you not to. And so this individual, he asked Krishna, "Please show me Maya, show me the power of your Maya, of your illusion." And Krishna simply asked him, "I will. But first, may you please fetch me a glass of water before I reveal this to you. And so I believe the name is Narada. So Narada, he goes to, um, he walks from where they're meeting, where he's meeting with Krishna, and he walks miles and miles and miles to the very first village that he can come to. Where, by the time he gets there, he's already thirsty himself, that he's about to ask for 2 glasses of water so he can actually take care of his own parchment and fulfill his thirst there, and head back. And as he gets to the doorway, he becomes he becomes taken over by the beauty of the female that answers the door. And before he asks for water, instead of asking for water, he asked for her hand in marriage. And you got to remember, back in those days, you see an individual, a man sees a female, desires to be with that female, to become husband to the female, and to make that female his wife. Back in those days, I think you simply just like approached an individual and said, "You're going to be my wife. Come with me." Like, I think it was kind of like that. So this individual went to go ask for water for Krishna, and instead he got taken over by her beauty and wanted to be married. And then they became married. She said yes, and they became married, and they were happy together, and they had children, and they had a wonderful life together. And even their children had children. They became grandparents, and they had grandbabies, and they had all kinds of possessions that they had worked for, and built up a life in a beautiful home and family together. And in one day, torrential rains come. This horrific weather, this horrific storm comes in, floods everything, takes out the entire village, everyone. And there's only one survivor, Narada. And Narada survives. And he sees all of his babies, all of his grandbabies, his wife, all taken away from him. Everyone. He is the only survivor. Narada is the only survivor. And when he loses everything, he just drops to his knees and he starts praying and begging for Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. And Krishna returns. And he's crying for Krishna. And Krishna calmly asks, "Where is my glass of water?" Did you forget the task at hand, my dear boy? Were you completely entrenched, entrapped by the power of Maya, of the illusion? I just read that story this morning, and that was quite interesting to understand that when we get sucked into the power of the illusion of the Maya, we do forget about our spiritual path, about our eternal connection with Source, with God. We completely forget it because we're so worried about our 9-to-5 jobs. We're worried about how are we going to make Christmas happen on this one day of the year. We got the whole year, 364 days now. You got 364 days to prepare for next year. But a lot of people wait till that last week and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I got to send my cards out, and I got to get my gifts out, and oh, I didn't get everything I wanted, and oh no, the dollar store is sold out on wrapping paper." It's like, well, whatever, keep it all in bags. Just put little ribbons on it, call it a day. They're gifts. Who cares? Why create more waste anyways with a bunch of wrapping paper, right? It's creating more damage to this illusion here, this Maya, and creating more damage to Maya, to this earth here. And so, it's just interesting, right? The things we do to ourselves, to each other, how we treat each other, how we treat ourselves, and how we treat our relationship with God. Some of us put it as like that's the first, the foremost thing. Some of us, like myself, I've become to a point where I think I've become like a God freak. Because back in the day, I used to make fun of people like me. Like, damn, man, you talk about anything else besides God? Like, yo, let's go skateboarding. Let's go focus on some fun. Let's go do some things. Let's forget about God for a minute. Come on, let's go have some fun. Let's go play in the Maya. Right? I used to make fun of people like me when I was younger because I didn't understand them. I didn't understand their relationship with God. I didn't understand their connection. And I didn't understand that we are all sons and daughters of God. We are all sons of God. I'm a son of God. I am the son of God. As you are, as you, all of you. We're all here, all together. We're just being reminded. And some of us, it takes a little bit more reminding than others. And that's all it is. And that's this personal journey that we're all on here called life. And so, with that being said, I hope you had a really awesome Christmas yesterday. That you were able to celebrate it in whichever way you wanted to, whether it was full blown out, whether you didn't at all. I hope that you had a wonderful and blessed day. And I hope that you were able to be reminded of your true purpose here, your devotional service, and your true connection and relationship with God. I will leave you with that. Merry Christmas to all. Hare Krishna to all. God bless you all. Have a beautiful day.